Hi, my name is Andrew Nimsgren, and welcome to the Class 1A channel. Alongside me, I have Dylan Beal with me to talk through the big question that a lot of people are asking right now. Is My Hero Academia going into its final arc? Is it about to end? What the hell is happening with the series? And Dylan, I am excited to talk about it and talk about what your thoughts are, but even just thinking about the possibility of it ending soon is so sad.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm super sad just thinking about it, but it's like also really exciting because it's been building up to this end for a really long time now, and I have full faith in Horikoshi that the ending is going to be incredible and it's going to be satisfying. It's going to be awesome, and I'm excited to see what it is. I'm not ready to get there, but I'm excited to see what it is.
Yeah, so obviously a couple months ago, Horikoshi, maybe it was 2018, 20 now. Obviously, time's just an illusion this last year. But Horikoshi did an interview at some point saying that fans are going to be disappointed because the series is going to end sooner than they want. We had no idea what that meant. But then this Saturday, what was it? Saturday the 21st, I believe it is, or the 20th. The newest chapter, I mean Sunday, I apologize, of My Hero Academia came out with the title The Final Act Begins, and that pretty much set the internet ablaze. If you are on social media, you've seen at least 8 or 10 articles saying My Hero Academia begins its final arc, blah, blah, blah. So, do you really think that they are signaling and just straightforward saying, hey, we're entering this final arc? Or are you just kind of thinking it's more of a general thing that, hey, we're getting down to the last couple of arcs and beginning to get to the big final fight?
Yeah, so I think that word very specifically is kind of loaded. Um, I think it'd be really great if we had someone who was like a Japanese native speaker that could make sure the translation was good, that act was the appropriate translation there.
Yeah.
But I'm, going off of the Shonen Jump official translations. I'm going to assume act is a little bit bigger than arc.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it is at least because, even if we get the longest arcs like that we've been getting is around 50, I don't think they could quite wrap it up in that. So I assume it means the last like act of this entire story, maybe not arc, but the act, which is might be a little bit bigger.
I would agree. So if you don't include this one, a lot of people are kind of counting this chapter, obviously based on the title, as a new arc. The Paranormal Liberation War arc was 53 chapters, which was the longest arc in My Hero to date. And I agree that that does feel just a little short to kind of wrap up everything. We did get the Endeavor. Obviously, there's full spoilers going into chapter 306 here. If you're not already read that, make sure to go. We have a manga review up on the channel. Make sure to read the chapter before going through with this. But I'm assuming you're already at that point. I mean, we got a pretty big time jump here of where we got quickly the Endeavor and Hawks press conference, which I thought was going to take a couple more chapters. And then there was a small time jump to Deku already being a rogue, which sets up the option of him having more control over all of his quirks already. So I think with that time jump, that could have accelerated the series a little faster than I expected, but it still feels way too early. We still don't know what shape Shigaraki's in. Deku still has, what, 6 or 5 more quirks to go through. And I feel like with the Vestige State couple of chapters we just had, the last couple of quirks are going to be a very big part. So rushing them would not seem right. So I agree. Maybe, I mean, if you're doing a chapter a week, a year and a half, what, 75 chapters sound about good?
Yeah, I think we're gonna wrap up around then. I don't know if the time skip is gonna stay or not, because it was about a month. But there's a couple important things that we're missing here. One is his chat with the 2 unknown users that we don't really know about, and two is he met up with Gran Torino at some point because he had the Gran Torino cape on,
Sure.
and then obviously with Nana saying at the end, "Hey, say hi to Gran Torino for me." We can assume that his next step was probably talking with Gran Torino before he left. Um, so I don't know if they're going to show that or not, and show kind of like the like what happened in that month. But yeah, it is accelerating really fast. I think if we get anything in there, it's going to be like 1 or 2 points, probably pretty abbreviated. They're going to keep the time skip for the most part, even though it's just a month. It's not like it's a huge time
Yeah.
skip, but it's getting pretty crazy because it's in April, and I'm pretty sure I didn't look this up beforehand, so don't like fully quote me on it. But I think that means it's the start of their second year, technically.
Technically.
Um, that would be the start of their second year. But obviously, uh, everything's crazy right now. All the parents got moved into the dorms. Everything's on lockdown. most of the heroes are basically vigilantes at this point. They're like vigilantes with licenses,
Yeah.
because they're kind of like acting on just like roaming around the streets trying to keep order. It's it definitely feels like the final act for sure in terms of like what the state is.
Yeah. And I guess the only thing that I worry about timeline is that maybe wrapping up a lot quicker is if we see Shigaraki waking up in the next chapter or two or start getting some mentions of him, that would worry me that it is the final arc and it's less than 50 chapters. I mean, because that's the last thing that obviously the battle against Shigaraki is going to be the final one. The Vestige State just set that up 100%. And we know right now he's resting to get to the 100%. So, but if like chapter 309, like he's waking up, I think it's going to come fast. It's going to be a long fight, obviously. That's what made the Paranormal Liberation War arc so long, is all the fight scenes and the animation for that. So it'll still be a good amount of chapters, but that would make it go a little faster than I want.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be paced out fairly long, not only because of the fight with Shigaraki at the end, because it's coming. It has to be the like that's towards the end. But I also think that there's going to be like a weird like meta fight in there too, because like it's not going to end with Deku fighting Shigaraki and that's it. There has to be more to it. Especially when he was talking about on wanting to save him, can't save Shigaraki, but he can save that child that's
Sure.
still within him somewhere. So I think that there is going to be the physical fight, but there's also going to be this something else going on. He's gonna, I like we talked about this. He's gonna save him in some way. In some way, I don't know what that is, but that's probably going to be towards the end as well, and that's going to be a big part of that. Which, if you take the big huge fight and then that's that could be like 10 chapters or something.
Yeah, that is true. And we also have just kind of talking about what's left of the series. Is really we have that fight and then Deku somehow I would say redeeming might be a little strong of Shigaraki, but finding a way to free him of the grasp from All for One. But then also the Endeavor Shoto Dabi fight. And then I feel like Bakugo needs to have some kind of big moment here. It felt really weird not getting him in chapter 306 at all, considering he was trying to burst down the doors in the hospital. So that felt weird. So obviously those two need to have a big moment as their relationship kind of comes to that peak. But also if Bakugo fought alongside Deku, that wouldn't feel out of place. But it also doesn't feel right. Like Bakugo being such a main character doesn't feel like he has a big final fight. So maybe they set him up against a couple of the remaining League of Villains. We need to figure out what the hell's happened with Toga. Machia's still out there, and someone needs to take them down. So there's a lot of questions about there, but what Bakugo is going to do in this final saga, let's call it, I have no idea.
Yeah, I think whatever he does is pretty important, for his character to kind of round it out and like complete what he was like building up to and like starting to like to learn and grow into. I think Todoroki's, the entire family, theirs is set up.
Yes.
We know what's going to happen there. Like that's kind of on rails. But I think Bakugo, and Uraka as well. I think those two need like very good character like finishing like plot points that we haven't really gotten yet, which I think with like the lingering League of Villains and what they're going on with right now, I would assume they would use that to kind of wrap up all those loose ends at once.
I agree. So before we kind of move on to what we think is next for the series briefly, I guess the overall question is, yes, My Hero Academia is coming to an end, but it's not quite imminent. Probably a year, 2 years out, but we are getting down to the final couple of arcs.
Yeah, 2 years. I think 2 years max.
2 years max, I would agree. That sounds about right because, yeah, I think that's good. So I guess with that, My Hero Academia ends in 2 years. Does the series just end? Do we get nothing more in the universe? Do you think we get a sequel? Obviously, right now we have vigilantes. They're doing team up missions. They're doing school briefs. Like they're filling out the current world, and they're also giving us a little bit of a prequel with a different take. Do you think we're going to get a next generation show? What do you think is going to happen in the universe?
I really don't think so. I think the whole like quirk, doomsday stuff, quirk singularity, whatever you want to call it, I don't think that really sets up for a good sequel to this, because quirks are getting out of control.
Yeah.
The only thing I could see is like maybe they have a sequel series of where they just tackle that problem, and it's probably a lot shorter, but that's all they do in that series is kind of figure out what is this quirk singularity thing is. But I don't know. I think they might finish it up in this one as well. So I'm saying I'm leaning towards no on a sequel. But prequels and things that happen alongside of it, I think are 100% open. The series is too big. It's too big of a franchise to not do it. And we've talked about this a ton. I think the next big thing, obviously, is Vigilantes and animation.
Yes.
It has to happen.
I agree. I think towards the end of the animation, we get that announcement. I agree. A sequel would be hard, like a Next Generations or Boruto or any whatever you want to think of it as. Shippuden doesn't seem to be fitting very right. As much as I'd love to have that, with All for One supposedly defeated at the end of the series, following Deku and Bakugo and them doesn't really seem to be as interesting as they're just going to be overpowering just about anything at that point. I think a sequel would be very cool, obviously alongside the Vigilantes and anime, but I'd love to get more of All Might, how his journey, like even a shorter series, and how it is, and a little bit of him in his limelight. Or there's so many other things in the past I think would be fun. Even a show on some of the previous predecessors, where like each arc or each season is covering a different predecessor jumping around. Like I think they're going to expand the universe, but I think Deku and Class 1A's journey ends with the manga. And I'm happy with
100%.
that.
And I could also see, I think this in execution is really, really hard to do. But I think we could just see different areas entirely. I could see Horikoshi just getting some inspiration and going, you know what? I'm just gonna make a bunch of like American heroes and just follow them. Set in, whatever time. It could be literally any time because we know nothing about what's been happening in America during any of this. And that would be really cool because you have a whole new landscape of quirks of how their hero society even works, how hero law works there.
Yeah.
So I'd be super interested to see that, especially because they talked about the drug trade in Japan with the quirk boosters and how they were always like a small version of what happens overseas. So I could totally see him picking up like maybe a grittier kind of My Hero universe in America of where it talked just about that.
Yeah, he's definitely Horikoshi done a good job of setting up and being able to go in different ways, even in the future if you want it in different settings. But I think that's really all I want to talk through today. Just kind of want to do a short video to kind of answer that question because I know a lot of people are talking about it and kind of giving the whole picture and what we kind of hope is next or what our opinions are of how long the series is going to go. I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to comment down below on your thoughts of how the series is going to end, but also make sure to subscribe and turn on those notifications. We do manga recaps every single week for the main series, for Vigilantes, and we're going to be doing episode recaps for the anime coming out, and we do all kinds of other videos just like this. So if you want more My Hero content, make sure to subscribe to Class 1A. But with that, I will see you all next video. Thank you so much for watching.